Welcome back to the Modern Ham, where we are connected in new old ways. Today we are going to install an XLX reflector. What is an XLX reflector? XLX is a interlinking protocol for reflectors, but the source code for the reflector itself will allow you to do YSF System Fusion, which means C4FM as well, DMR, and D-Star all in one. And it also supports transcoding between DMR and YSF natively, so you don't need any additional hardware. So, with all of that said, let's get into it. Here's the prerequisites. Either you need Ubuntu 22.04 LTS, or we're going to use Debian 12. I already have all of the commands all prepackaged, all on my blog, as well as some fancy pictures. If you guys prefer that, I'll be following along with that through this video to get us installed. Another prerequisite is you have to have a little bit of Linux knowledge. A little bit of Linux knowledge meaning you can at least follow the tutorial and you can maintain and update your server in the future. What I've written will get you an XLX reflector running, but it will not secure and maintain your server for years to come. You also need a domain name. A domain name, I'm not going to walk you through the purchase of a domain name. I get mine through Namecheap, and the server is going to go through Linode. And the domain name is used to point an address at your reflector. XLX requires a domain name just because of the way that it populates onto the host files for hotspots. And it's just a nice thing to have. That way, every time an IP address changes, you don't have to go back and all of your users on the hotspot will have to change and update their list too. For the sake of this tutorial, I am going to use one of my domain names, and the domain I'm going to use, the subdomain, is going to be xlx.digitalradio.wiki. So that'll be the one that I set up today. So anytime you see xlx.digitalradio.wiki, you'll replace it with your own domain name. So we're going to go ahead and start off by provisioning server. I'm going to use Linode because it's only $5 a month, and I've had an XLX reflector running on it for about a year with no problems. So if you guys want to use Linode too, for $5 a month, they'll host the server and you can throw your software on there. The link will be in the description, but you only need the $5 one. So the lowest CPU, it's only 1 gig of RAM. XLX reflectors don't cost a lot. So the label, I'm just going to call it XLX .digital radio wiki. XLX, something that just, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to go ahead and create my root password. And for the rest of these options, I'm just going to hit no and hit create Linode. Great. So my Linode's being created. And the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and just grab that IP address. So this is the IP address that you'll want your name server to point to. Now, xlx.digitalradio.wiki will point to this IP address. Great. So now, if we open this up, we'll go ahead and get SSH access. And if you're following along and not using Linode, this is probably where you're going to begin, right? So I'm going to go ahead and log into my new provision server. And there. This right here is where things begin. We have a root server. So, over on the guide that I've already written, we'll just follow things one by one. I want to start out by saying that there has already been several guides on this, but they're at least a year old, and even the ones that were written a year ago were using end-of-life software like PHP 7, which is not a good idea for publicly hosted services. So I've created my own guide, and it uses the most up-to-date services possible. So the first thing that we've already done, we've already created a server. We've already logged in as root, and we already have a fully qualified domain name. The next thing you want to do is go ahead and pick out a 3-digit number for your XLX reflector. Now, if you go to this website here, and you can get there by get on the blog post that I posted in the description, you'll see a list of XLX reflectors. And it's very important that you select an XLX number, that is the 3-digit code after XLX, that is not on this list, and that will be how people access your hotspot, and access from hotspot via DMR, System Fusion, or D-Star. That's how it'll be known. So in my case, I'm going to look for a gap in numbers, right? So I don't see an XLX 532, right? So there's a 531, there's a 533. So I'm going to go ahead and take it upon myself to say I am going to be XLX 532. And I'll have to remember that. But next, we're going to go ahead and, as with any server, let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to go ahead and do an apt update. And that's just going to update our server. And the next thing we're going to do, just in case it's not installed, is install sudo. Now we are going to add a new user, and that's because we don't want to do everything as root. That'll be the add user and then your username. I'm using my call sign. You use whatever you like, just remember it. It's going to ask for a password. I'm going to go ahead and type that in. Now the rest of this you can hit enter all the way up to is this information correct, and then you want to hit a capital Y and hit enter. Now you have a new user. Great. So now we're going to add that user to the sudo group. So this will make it so that this user can use super user commands. Great, too easy. Now we're going to go over and switch over to our brand new user. And I'm sorry if I'm moving fast, guys. Just pause the video. I'm going along the text tutorial, so it's really that easy. So I've changed over to our new user, and this command is going to go to our new user's root directory, our home folder. That way we can actually work out of it. So now we should be in /home/ your user. Now, let's go ahead, and I think we already did the update, but I'm going to go ahead and issue it again. For some reason I had it in the guide, so maybe there was a reason. And we're going to go ahead and do an upgrade. That way any packages that can be updated will be upgraded. So this next command is actually all one, and this is going to install all of our dependencies, right? So, and it's also going to install a firewall. That way our server is more secure. So as it's downloading, let's take a look at the next portion. It says we're going to now download the XLX Reflector source code. We're going to do some modifications, and then we're going to compile it. So let's go ahead and do our git clone, and this is going to download the source code. This next command will change our current folder into the source folder of our new download. And this next one is going to edit one of the source code files to enable auto linking on YSF. So we'll just do nano main.h, and we are going to find the line that reads this right here, just define YSF auto link enable. So if you hit Control W, you can actually paste that in and hit enter, and it'll take you right to it. So we're going to change the 0 to a 1. What does this do? Well, typically by default, when the reflector is set up with YSF, if you connect with a WiresX radio, it won't actually join a room, and so it doesn't work right off the bat. If we change this 0 to a 1, now every time someone joins with YSF, it'll automatically put them into the following module. Module B. You can think of this as chat rooms. So there will be several modules that are basically like chat rooms that either YSF can join, DMR can join. You can have them separated. You can have them together. We'll get into it a little bit more at the end of the installation. Great. So once that's changed, we're going to hit Control X to save. And now we're going to go ahead and compile the program. So make clean, and we're going to make. And this next command will require sudo privileges. So, all right, so we'll go ahead and do the sudo make install. And we're going to go ahead and this right here is going to change the permissions on the XLX so that it runs correctly or has the right permissions to access itself. Great. Now we're going to go ahead and copy the startup template. This is the thing that automatically starts the server on reboot into what would be your startup scripts folder on Linux. And now we're going to edit it because there are a few things that need changed in the startup line. So if you scroll down, you should see this line right here, this arguments. And what we're going to do is change the XLX 999 to the 3 numbers that you found previously. I'm going to look one more time. I'm going to use 532. So we're going to do XLX 532. And next, we're going to replace this 192.168.1.240 with our public IP address. So this is the IP address of the server itself. And I'm going to go over to Linode and grab that right here. I'm going to backspace the other stuff that it copied in there, right? Now, if you have a transcoding server and that's outside of the scope of this guide, you can replace this last IP address with your transcoders. That will allow DStar to connect with DMR and YSF, and they can talk to each other. But for now, I'm going to leave this as is. So this is great. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control X to save. And yes, enter. Great. So now we are going to download the DMR database and place it into the appropriate folder. So this right here gets the DMR IDs, and that way your server can access it locally. And now we're going to go ahead and set XLX to auto start. Great, we're making a lot of progress. Now we're going to go on to the web front end. We're going to go ahead and copy all of the web files into our Apache folder, or our web folder. So we're going to go ahead and copy all those. Great. Now we're going to edit the configuration for the XLX dashboard. So as long as you copied it in the same place, we're going to go ahead and edit this. And there's a couple things that need changed. Let's open this up a little bit. Starting at page options. So if you remember, if you hit Control W, you can paste something in and hit enter to find it. So the contact email, I'm going to make this xlx@digitalradio.wiki. Now you can make this any email you have. This is going to show up on the home page of the dashboard, and if people need help, this is probably the email that they're going to use to reach out to. Now for the next thing to change would be the meta description. I'm going to leave it the same, but if you want a little description to show web pages, you can do that. The meta author, you can change that as well if you'd like. I'm just going to leave it the same, but most people put their call signs in there. Now, next part of the guide is we need to change calling home to active. So we're going to hit Control W again to find that. Hit enter. And it's in here somewhere. There we go. So see right here, this line, it says calling home active. As soon as we change this and restart it, our reflector is going to report itself to the XLX Reflector database, and it's going to start populating on hotspots after a while. We're going to go ahead and change that to true. Now, the next thing you need to change, it says your dashboard. This is going to be the URL of your server. So, again, my domain name, right? I'm going to change it to xlx.digitalradio.wiki. Great. Now, the next part, you need to change your country. So, mine is going to be USA. If you have an abbreviation for a country other than USA, use that. The comment is going to show on all of the XLX reflector server lists. So each reflector has another list of XLX reflectors, and you can put a little comment here. I'm going to put it in a, YouTube tutorial. Right? Now, also this hash file needs to be changed. We're going to change it from TMP/calling home, and we're going to put in XLXD/calling home. The reason we're going to do that is because the temp folder in Linux often gets erased. It's not permanent, and this hash file is important. So make sure you replace that. Now we're going to hit Control X to save this configuration file. And next, we're going to change the permissions of our web server to the web server user, which is usually www.data, right? And we're going to do the same thing to the XLXD folder. That way it can actually access that hash file. Great. Now we're going to move on to the Apache configuration. So this next command, we're going to create a new configuration file, and it needs to be in etc apache 2 sites available. We'll see it here in a second. I'm going to copy and paste this command so you guys can see. Now, before you hit enter, you need to name this file as your XLX domain.conf, right? So mine is going to be xlx.digitalradio.wiki.conf. That's because xlx.digitalradio.wiki is going to be my domain name for the Reflector, and it has to end in .conf. So this creates a new file in /etc/apache2/sites-available. We're going to hit enter. And what you're going to do now is go on the guide here, and you're just going to copy and paste this configuration, or hand jam it if you like. And of course, the server name we are going to change again to our domain name. So we're going to do xlx.digitalradio.wiki. Now, again, make sure you change this xlx.digitalradio.wiki to your fully qualified domain name. That one is mine. So I'm going to go ahead and save that file. And the next thing we're going to do is open the ports. There's two different ways that this can go, right? Some servers automatically come with IP tables. I've already created a giant list of open these ports, right? There's probably one command to do it, but if you just copy all of these and you paste it in and hit enter, it will open your ports for IP tables. Now, also at the beginning of this guide, we installed Uncomplicated Firewall, UFW, I think that's the name of it. So by default, you'll definitely need to run these commands. And so again, I would just copy, paste them in, that'll suffice. Now we'll finally get to start our server. So you're going to use this command right here. You're going to replace your dash domain with obviously your fully qualified domain name again. We're going to do xlx.digitalradio.wiki. And it says to activate it, we need to reload it. All right, fair enough. We'll go ahead and run that command too. It'll probably need sudo. So this is something in the guide I'll probably put in. But sudo systemctl reload. Next, we're going to start the XLXD service. And this right here, this actually should have been ran before. That's probably why I have the restart afterwards. But we're going to go ahead and make sure that our log file that is created is owned by the web server. I need to add sudo to that. I'll fix that on the guide too. So sudo chown. There we go. Now, all we have to do is restart the Apache service. So we're going to do this. And there we go. If everything went right, you should be able to navigate to your new dashboard. So I'm going to go to xlx.digitalradio.wiki. One thing to keep in mind is it may take a little while for your domain name to populate. And you can check that if you go to whatsmydns.net, you can type in a domain. Hit search, and you can see where this domain's pointing. And right now, none of these are populated. So it might take up to 24 hours for your domain to actually point at the right IP address. So if you need to check, you can go to this website and see. But once it's showing that it's pointing to the correct IP address, then this is a Reflector I've been running on Linode. It'll come up with your comments, your XLX number, and you'll see that there's modules. So your modules are kind of like the rooms that people are connected to. And if you go to repeaters and nodes, you'll see that I have 3 people connected to module B with YSF. I have 1 person connected with their DMR hotspot to A and Delta. Now, one thing you need to keep in mind is there are several rooms here, right? By default, I think it comes with this A through J. So, for someone that wants to get in module B with YSF, all they have to do is connect. It'll put them in module B. But with DMR, you'll notice that this 4002 is their talk group. That's the one that they need to use to get into module B. If they use 4001, they'll go to module A, and so on and so forth. The person that's using Wires X can actually use the Wires X on his handheld to switch to different rooms or different modules, just as if he was connected to a repeater. Anyways, there you have it. That is an updated XLX Reflector install guide. This will get you running your very own reflector. Now, it will take, sometimes it can take several days for your reflector to start showing up in Pi-Star and OpenSpot and all these different hotspots. But look out for YSF automatically popping up as XLX 5 or whatever number you chose, as well as DMR. D-Star can be connected the same way with XLX or direct IP address. So that's it. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions or problems, please comment below. And I don't mean the type of problem where it's you got the command wrong. If you're experiencing an issue with the guide, the way it's written, let me know and I'll correct it. Quick shout out to my channel members, Scott Pasternak. Thank you so much for re-upping as a member. You're awesome. I always butcher the names. You guys never tell me to correct it. So Hanil Vanderwalt, Google Must Die, Van Flick, and Bart Killam. Also deletion scheduled. I don't know really what that means, but appreciate you guys for watching. 73 to you.